Shalom, dear friends. In the final discourse of Jesus, by the help of parables and figurative sayings, Jesus exhorts his disciples on the necessity of being watchful. Yesterday, I mentioned that the final sermon of Jesus contains truths about the second coming of Jesus, which is technically called as parousia. Parousia is a Greek term used to denote presence or arrival or an official visit. This is a technical term used to denote an arrival or a visit of an emperor coming to celebrate his victory in the conquered city. In the Gospels, Matthew is the only one who uses this term parousia, and he uses it 4 times. But there are other 20 instances in the New Testament. It is often related to the second coming of Messiah. And the early Christians thought that Jesus would come back very soon. That is reflected especially in the first letters that St. Paul wrote, especially the first letter of Paul to the Thessalonians. But gradually they realized that there is a delay in the coming of Jesus. So the early church continued to exhort the Christians to be watchful, to be ready, although we really do not know when exactly Jesus would return. So there is a joyous expectation for the second coming of Jesus, and Jesus would reward those who are loyal to him. So in the context of this parousia, we have the parables in chapter 24 and 25. So we come to the parable of the 10 virgins, again with the theme of watchfulness and vigilance. In the Palestine of Jesus' time, marriage took place in 2 stages. First is the betrothal at the home of the father of the bride, where the bridegroom is presented, the contract is made, and the bride price is paid. Maybe a year later, the second part of the wedding takes place when the bride comes to the house of the bridegroom, and the bridegroom celebrates this in a procession, and that's the background of this parable. Here, the 5 virgins are called foolish because they slept off without making themselves ready, getting the lamps with oil filled for the function. And we have indication that they were not prepared. In fact, they could not afford to sleep because they did not have enough oil. They had enough time to go out and get the oil. Instead, the wise ones could afford to sleep as they were ready. So the foolish ones missed the opportunity. When they went out to get the oil, the door of the wedding banquet was closed. They make a plea, Lord, Lord, that resembles in chapter 7. So reply of the bridegroom is, I do not know you, which means I have nothing to do with you. The message is clear. Be awake, be watchful. That's the concluding exhortation in the parable. So the bridegroom is Jesus. Throughout the Old Testament, the God who is the bridegroom in the prophet Isaiah, Hosea and Jeremiah. God is the bridegroom, and in the story Jesus is the bridegroom. The bridesmaids are the people who form the community of Jesus, in which there is a mixture of good and bad, wise and foolish. The return is delayed like the wise virgins. The message is clear. Be prepared so that you enter into the joy of the bridegroom. We come to the second parable of the talent. Often the parable is narrated to establish God's gift to His faithful. However, the Greek word talenton has no other connotation except that it is a monetary unit, a weight. In the parable, talenton is a very large sum of money. It depicts two servants who invest and double the money that was given to them, and they win the approval of the master, while the third one, in contrast, buries the money. In fact, in antiquity, this was an accepted form of keeping the valuables, but he earns the harsh punishment. The master returns after a long time. Long time denotes the delay of the parousia. But when he comes back, the reward is made. Enter into the joy of the master. Again, the theme of delay, an important element in the parable. So the Christian is told not to be lazy. Atrophied disciple, a lazy Christian, will be punished. That is the moral of this story. It is not important how much you have received. It's important how you have responded to God's grace. Finally, the last judgment, it is not just a parable. It is the unveiling of the truth. The scene of the solemn parousia. There is no delay. The Son of Man has come. And this is the solemn conclusion to the entire teaching of Jesus. At the beginning of the scene, there is the Son of Man who comes as the king, who is also shepherd. The Palestinian crowd would know that there is a mixture of flock grazing, sheep and goats. But in the evening, they are separated, and sheep are more valuable than the goats. The oft-repeated theme of the two kingdoms are highlighted again here. The first kingdom, that of God the Father, the kingdom that Jesus proclaimed, the kingdom for the righteous. The other kingdom opposed to Jesus, that is the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. The Son of Man is the shepherd, the king, the Lord. Remember, here the title Son of David is not used because there is a universal judgment. It is not just meant for the people of Israel. Universal judgment. All the nations are gathered. The disciples are the sheep. The wicked are the goat. What is the criterion for judgment? Please take note of verse 40. Truly I tell you, just as you did to one of the least of these, you did it to me. The least of these. Who are the least? Jesus identifies himself with who are hungry, thirsty, foreigner, naked, sick, and those in prison. So what is to be watchful? Recognizing the Son of Man in those who are in need. What is to be ready? To be loving towards those who are in need. as we say here in Karnataka, Jana Seve is Janardana Seve. Service to people, humanity, is service to God. So here we have a revolutionary statement about Jesus, about judgment. Identifying Jesus in the least of the humanity is recognizing Jesus. And service to humanity is service to Jesus. God bless.